like to compare it to MMA fighting, which I don't enjoy watching.
Do you know, I was just thinking improv is exactly the same as MMA. Yeah.
Hey, how long have you been hiding in your husband's shadow? And then just wait. Well, I did have a dream last night of Tina Fey, and we were co-writing a joke together on
Oh,
Saturday
wow.
Night Live. So I will just give, and wear burnout like a badge. It has to be, yes, brainwashing sounds so strong, but that's the only thing I could think of.
On this week's Engaging Marketeer, I'm speaking to Meg Calvin from Kansas in the United States. Meg was a preacher with the church at the age of 13 and a minister at 16. So I'll be speaking to Meg about how she got involved with that and what her thoughts are on that now. She now works as a coach, an author, and a book coach, helping people get what's inside here out into the actual world. Let's see what she's got to say. There's no prep. You've not been prepped for this, so you've no idea what's...
I have no idea. It's a good thing I'm on an improv team. So, because I'm...
Are you on an improv team?
I'm on an improv team. Yep.
Oh, well, let's start with that then. What got you wanted to do an improv?
Yeah, it was my only regret in life was that I didn't study it in college.
Yeah.
And so...
Can you study it in college?
I did not. I regret...
Can you? Is it a thing that you can do it?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I regret that I did not do that. So in my late 30s, I was really like looking back over my life and thinking, what haven't I done that I want? You know, all the things you do in your late 30s. And I thought, I'm going to start an improv troupe. So I started by taking a class, and I loved it so much and loved the freedom in it, the playful nature of it.
Yeah.
And I'm an author, and so obviously words are like seconds on cake for me. So anyway, I asked the teacher if I would pay you every week to teach me improv, and she said okay. And she said, you don't have to pay me. I said no. She said, could you get a troupe together? And so I got the talent, and I found 6 other people in our community that always wanted to do it or have done it. And we've been together now 2 years. We're called Snark Side of the Moon, and it's the best. It's the best. It's just so much fun. We probably do about five gigs a year, but we practice, which isn't called practicing. It's called playing. We play every Tuesday night, and it's such a creative exercise because if you're in your head, if you're trying to organize and rationalize, you will suck at improv. It really is about being in flow with your stage partner and what character's coming through you. Yeah, it's the best. So I love it.
See, I love I've never done improv, but I love the idea of it because I used to watch, there's a show on the UK here that I know you guys have got in America as well called Whose Line Is It Anyway? Which is improv. It used to be on in the 80s here. It's very old, but...
Okay. I want to look up those old episodes.
Oh, yeah, because we've got a guy in the UK that's on the American show as well, Ryan Stiles.
Okay,
So
yeah.
he's on both. I don't know why. He's been doing improv for about 40 years. Who knows? But I've always loved the idea of it. And I've had an improv guy on my podcast before because he was a comedian and he's done improv at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is a huge thing.
I've heard of that
Britain.
festival, yeah.
Massive. But yeah. I'd be terrified the idea of going onto a stage with other people and just not knowing what you're going to do. Because you get suggestions from the audience, don't you? And it's just you just go with it. How do you do that?
I like to compare it to MMA fighting, which I don't enjoy watching.
Do you know, I was just thinking improv is exactly the same as MMA. Yeah.
What I mean by that is I can't watch. I like boxing. I can't watch MMA. There's too much blood for me. However, how they're similar is from the outside perspective, watching MMA, I'm like, there's no rules. There must be no rules. And then my friends inform me, oh, no, there are rules to MMA. So the same is true for improv. I would say there are, 10 rules, but I'll only share like the 3 basics that I'm thinking of all the time. And that is never deny your partner's reality. So it's always yes and. And so if my partner on stage gives me a name that's Larry, that usually is a male name. So I'm going to, my body is going to change. My posture, my voice, I'm going to become Larry. So never deny your partner's reality. Within the first 3 seconds, establish a relationship with your stage partner so the audience knows, Are they watching a date? Are they watching a teacher tutor a student? So never deny reality. Always define the relationship 3 to 5 seconds in. Start in the middle, never start at the beginning of a scene. So if you're going to mow the lawn, don't start the scene with going to the garage to get the lawnmower, that kind of thing. I already said so there are these rules. There's about 10, I would say. I won't bore you with all of them. That great improvers they're kind of, those rules are flowing through their veins. And to get to the really fun part of improv, I believe if you're trying to be funny, you will fail. But if you're trying to fully embody the character that's coming through you, and if you are in tune with your partner, and if you're just letting a story happen, like conflict's going to happen, what kind of conflict would make sense in this situation on the roller coaster? If you're just focusing on embodying your character and telling a story, and being totally present in the moment, you will be funny all the time. But the goal, if I go on stage trying to be funny, I suck. And so that was a long answer to how do I do it. But the best part I love to share is it's very different than when I write fiction and when I write nonfiction. And when I also sing, and that's a different place. The muse to me in those places comes from a different place. And I feel there's lots of creatives that listen to your show, so I think they'll get it. Physically, where do they feel the muse? In improv, the character comes, this is going to sound so crazy, but I'm totally going to own it. In improv, the character comes to me through my feet. And if I'm totally empty backstage and the MC is introducing the next performance game, if I'm totally empty, totally present, and just focusing on how much freaking fun this is, the character will come through my feet. And they will tell me their accent. They will tell me their gender. They will tell me like how they hold their. I had a character. We had a gig last weekend, and there was one character. She told me to lead with my shoulder. So when I walked on stage, my right shoulder was a little more forward, and she had like a southern drawl, and she talked a little slower than the other boys on stage, and so I have to let it come through my feet, which is so bizarre. But I think creatives will get that.
Wow. There's so much in there. There's so much good advice. The previous guest I had talked about yes and as well. Mm-hmm. Never say no, never say but. Don't say yes but. It's yes and. And he's done a TEDx talk as well. So we were talking about doing a TEDx talk, and he did that about improv.
I have to watch that.
But you're not allowed to improvise a TEDx talk because you have. It has to be word for word because they have to approve what you're going to say. So we did a TEDx talk about improv where he wasn't allowed to do any improv, which was really funny. But I really appreciate the way that comedy, improv, and sales are intrinsically linked. Because yes and is something you would say in sales. If you start saying but to somebody that you're selling something to, you're putting up barriers. You're telling them they've done something wrong, or they've said something wrong, or they've misunderstood something. And if you do that, you're not going to make a sale. Whereas if you're saying yes and, you're telling them that's correct, and then there's more. So I love the way it's all linked. I was talking to a sales trainer the other day about this, about how sales and dating are very similar. And he said, that's probably why I'm so crap at dating. But they're all very, very similar because it's about listening to the other person, understanding what it is they want, what it is they need to hear from you, and then giving them the right answers. So they're all very, very similar. I love that.
Yes, I do too. As I've grown my business over the past 5.5 years, and I have an amazing business coach who's helped me scale and helped me know when it's time to delegate things off my plate. I've never delegated sales. I love the game of sales, and I have a script. And at the same time, 90% of the time, I will go off the script if the energy calls for it. If there's a question that just keeps dropping on my head that I feel is a real block, is a real obstacle for this person to write their book and build their brand, I will go off script and say, I'm open to being wrong. Can I ask you a direct question? And the person will say yes. Most of the time they say yes. And then what comes out is I just have to trust it and say, how long have you been hiding in your husband's shadow? And then just wait. And yeah, so total connection, improv and sales calls. Every sales call, I believe, can be good, even if that doesn't lead to a partnership. If I've served the person toward more clarity and confidence and resources and direction, I've done a great job. And I've also noticed when I'm more open to being trusting and going off script and tapping into the part of me that is an improver, my conversion rate does go up.
It is interesting, isn't it? Do you ever feel that other salespeople really should go off and do comedy and do improv because it'll make them better salespeople?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
But kind of hope they don't because that's more competition for us.
Well, I did have a dream last night of Tina Fey, and we were co-writing a joke together on
Oh,
Saturday Night
wow.
Live. Yeah.
Wow.
And she told me in the dream, she said, and I know not all dreams are messages, but this one, it was definitely my subconscious working stuff out. In that she said, Meg, be comfortable with the competition. And and so that's interesting you brought that up. So and it was based on something I'm working on right now, I did need to hear that message from Tina Fey.
If Tina Fey says it, it's got to be true, even if it
It's
was.
got to be true.
Even if it
Yes.
was in your dream last night. But you obviously didn't start doing sales. You didn't start
Right.
doing improv. You started preaching when you were 13, I believe. What
Yep.
what made you want to do that?
I always loved the stage, as most performers say. And also, as most performers say, there was a season in my early childhood where there wasn't love and affirmation and validation coming at home from home. And so the church, to no surprise, as it does for many performers, the applause from the audience met that need. And so I had been on stage singing since I was 6. And then when my missionary grandparents knew they were looking for a teenager to preach on Youth Sunday, my grandmother, who saw gifts in me, really pushed me. And I, of course, yes, pick me, pick me. So that's why. And I was so thankful. I was raised in United Methodist. So I'm thankful because as a woman, that meant that, oh gosh, we'd been ordaining women for over 75 years now, I believe. So at that point in the early 2000s, I had men and women mentors all gathering around me, supporting me. And then my missionary grandparents would then take me around. And I was this ecclesial show pony. I would perform at their church, other churches and conferences and mission trips. And I would sing and I would preach. And yep. So, and lots of good came from it. And I'm thankful that season is behind me, but thankful for the good that came from it. And my favorite part of ministry, I've gotten to use in my coaching business.
I have to ask, why are you pleased it's behind you?
Oh, yes, yes. Nice job picking up on the energy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pleased it's behind me because I think a lot of entrepreneurs will relate to this. When I was working in that field, which was really from the age of 13 to 32, which sounds weird to say, what do you mean you were working at 13? But I really was. I was writing sermons. I was speaking at things and speaking at the church. But when I was from 13 to 32, I was creating from a place of appeasing and impressing others and hustling and grinding, and not from a place and just hoping, dear God, I hope no one finds out that I'm not as smart as they think I am, or I hope no one looks at me and isn't impressed. So there was that. So that unhealthy subconscious driver. I listened to one of the episodes of yours I listened to was about limiting beliefs. And so limiting beliefs from age 13 to 32 were running my life and making every choice for me. And then when around 32, when I had this insane moment happen, that led to me starting my coaching business and helping people write, market, and sell their books, I shifted from creating from a place of appeasing and impressing to creating from a place of joy and pleasure and still serving others. But for the first time, it was serving others was just as important as my own joy. And that had never been the case. As a Christian minister, it was always, your faith is only as strong as your ability to deny yourself, and don't trust yourself and your desires is not trustworthy. Was that limiting belief? So I will just give, and wear burnout like a badge. And so that's why I'm pleased it's behind me, even though I'm so thankful for all the relationships and all the skill sets and mindsets and body sets I got from it. But I'll pause. That make sense?
It definitely made sense. And it makes me think, do you think it's healthy?
Being a being a minister in general, or serving from that place of appeasing or impressing?
I'd say serving from that place of appeasing and oppressing, and doing it so young as well.
Oh, no. No, that was the basis of my second book.
Oh, right.
It was a very satirical self-help book, and it's called I Am My Own Sanctuary, and I say it's if Seth Meyers was to conceive a book baby with a nun, that would be this book. And so, but
There's an
yeah,
image. There's an image.
yes, yeah, totally, totally. So no, not healthy, not healthy at all. And I'm so thankful for all the resources I've had to help me move through that, therapy and coaches and sweaty palm conversations with parents and grandparents, and loving them right where they are, knowing their own childhoods that led to them making the choices they made, offering forgiveness, and in a sense committing to moving differently in our relationships. That I feel called to stay in relationship with you, parents and grandparents. I forgive you. And also moving forward, I know that even if I disappoint you, I'm still worthy of love. That got really deep, but that is the basis of that, is that was no, not healthy. Really funny to look back at now, and now that I've healed it, but no, I would not recommend it. And I think that's why improv was so attractive to me, even as a college student. I wanted to study it, but as I've already alluded to, I studied everything related to religion and worked at a church all throughout college. But my real desire was, oh man, I want to study improv. And I didn't do it. But I think I was always attracted to it because it's play. And I think from what I've picked up on from other entrepreneurs is I think we come out of the womb wired to be entrepreneurs. We are a different breed of people. And many studies have proved that. Not better. We're not better than other people. We're just neurologically wired differently.
Yeah.
But I think talking to other entrepreneurs, I know a lot that are like me, that due to the relational system of their childhood, they basically developed workaholic habits at a very young age. And whether it was from I have to care for my family, or I have to impress my family. And if they're not happy with me, I'm not emotionally safe. So I would say workaholic tendencies came up in me at a very early age. So when I saw improv, when I first tried it in high school, and it was just play, it was someone literally teaching me how to play. Oh man, give me more of this. I don't know how to feel safe enough to play. What is this world? So long, landing the very long story plane. No, it's not healthy, but thankful for it, because it made me who I am now and how I can serve now.
You got me thinking then when you said that some of us have come out as entrepreneurs and we're wired differently, and it's that need for our family to, what did you say, be impressed or
Yes.
be
Yeah,
impressed?
I gotta impress the guardians, the authorities. Yeah, at all cost. I
Impressed
can't
them.
disappoint them. Can't disappoint them.
It's almost, I've never thought of it before, but it's almost like entrepreneurs and performers are very similar in that, as you mentioned, you wanted that stage, you wanted that audience, you wanted that applause. And as an entrepreneur, you want people to be impressed with what you've done. You want people to say, oh, look, she's done this, she started this business, she's the breadwinner for the family. It's a very similar mindset. And I've realized that in myself now, listening to you, that's kind of what I go for as well. I want the applause, I want the adulation, but I also want that from an entrepreneurial perspective. And I know I am completely unemployable now. If I ever had to go and get a job, it's not happening. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could take orders or instruction from anybody right now. I don't know about you, but it's never going to work for me anymore.
Nope, that's a very good point. Yes, I agree. Totally. Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Very, very similar. Yes. Entrepreneurs and performers. Yes. And that taps into shadow work, which I would imagine you and your listeners know what that is.
I have never heard the term shadow work before,
Oh,
but I am
oh,
intrigued. Do go on.
oh my goodness. Well, forgive me for assuming. You know what they say
Yeah.
about assuming. Well, at least
Yes.
here in the States, what they say about assuming.
Is
I
that the
won't
one that
repeat
it makes an ass out of you and me? Is that the
There it
one?
is.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah. We've got that one too.
Yes, yes. So shadow work is taking time to be with the parts of yourself that you are ashamed of. Whoa, that got deep.
Whoa. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
And a personal example, I'll keep it short. I'll keep it short. When I first started my business, so 2019 on the on-ramp to launching in 2020, I was so afraid that people would think that I wanted attention. And I was ashamed of that, especially coming from the ministerial background. And so that was my shadow work to do, was to sit in that. And what would it mean if they thought that about me? What would happen? And the great analogy I was given was about shadow work. Imagine you're a kid playing hide and go seek with your friends outside, and there is a porch light in the backyard that's covering most of the backyard. But to your right, there's a garage. And on the side behind that garage, it's not well lit. There's no, I don't know why I feel need to repeat that. There is no light. There's no
There is
light
no
over
light.
there.
There is no light. No.
There's no light. Let's make that clear. And so you're all playing hide and go seek, and your friends are like, oh, we should go hide over there. But you say, we can't, because my dad told us we can only play in the light. But imagine if you were to explore that part, the dark side of the garage, turn the light on after exploring it, realizing, oh, this is safe. I can play in this space. Now you and your friends have so much more acreage to play on. So for me, the work that I had to do was I was terrified someone would see my marketing and think, oh, look at Meg. She just wants attention. Oh gosh, my heart sinks. But then shadow work with it, play with it. I realized I do want attention because my motive is helping people who are writing helpful, healing books. That's the only client I want to work with. Do they want to help other people with their book? Yes, they're my client. And so I fucking do want attention, because when attention's on me, it's on helping people. And I am a performer. I can embrace liking the camera on me because it's a good thing. And if ever my shadow work then went deeper to, but what if someday I'm not a person of integrity and I just want attention to be egotistical and selfish? Like, what if that happens? And so then, okay, now I just found a little dark place behind the bush, behind the garage. Let's play in that a little bit. Check, like you said on your other episode, is that a limiting belief? Am I capable of being an egotistical, narcissistic person who's not coming from integrity? Yeah, I am capable of that. But do I have the habits and routines and support systems in place to make sure that I do stay in line with my integrity and that serving people is always my highest priority, right next to my own joy? Yes, I do have that support and habits in place to make sure I'm not going to become a narcissistic egomaniac, camera hog. And so that is shadow work. So now I can, the word sounds scary, and the definition of exploring those parts of you want to repress, that also sounds dark. It's like, oh God, but it doesn't have to be. It was the most healing work for me to do, because now I can honestly say to my teammate who found your show and said, Meg, check out Darren's show. And I listened to 3 episodes and I was like, this guy could be a comedian. I want to be on his show. I can now be confident and say, I love podcasting. I love being on camera. I love, instead of, oh no, I hope they don't judge me and think, oh, that Meg, she just wants too much attention. Yes, they're exactly right. I do.
I've been accused of that myself many, many times.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all
I
about...
I bet. You're so entertaining. It makes perfect sense.
Please. No. More. It's fine. So let's talk about the business that you have now then, the fact that you help people write books. What got you wanting to do that for other people? Because writing a book for yourself is hard enough. Getting other
Yes.
people to do it must be extreme hard, even 3 or 4 times harder.
Yes. I would say it's harder to write one on my own. Is that true? Oh wait, no, it doesn't matter. Yes. Well, writing, this is a good, I think this might serve someone listening that it's interesting when people from the outside say that is so hard, and there are lots of things in life that are hard for me, extremely hard. However, writing is, like I said earlier, it is like seconds on wedding cake for me. It's very pleasurable, and I can never get enough of it. And so I wrote my first book in 2016, and it got picked up from a traditional publishing company. And as books do, if we want them to, I got invited to speak at conferences and began coaching ministers from preventing burnout, which is quite ironic. Anyway, and
That is
that's what happened in
ironic.
the years that followed. Yeah,
Yeah.
as I was at these conferences, other ministerial, we'll call them servant leaders, other servant leaders, people in nonprofit spaces would come up and with shame, they would whisper to me about their book idea, but they would never publish it because they had so many limiting beliefs around monetizing being sinful, around marketing being greedy, and around just simply trusting. They weren't using these words, but what they were feeling was, I can't trust my own desire to write a book. This must not be of God because I thought of it myself. So that broke my heart. That was my why. That pissed me off. That was my pillow talk at 2 a.m., as we talk about in the business world, was I'm heartbroken at all of these helpful healing books that are stuck inside overly religious people. And so that was 2017. And 2019, my second book got picked up. And at that point, one of my best friends from childhood reached out, and he is a business coach and marketing expert. And he said, I want to write a book. I don't know where to start. Could you teach me how to write a book? And in return, I will make you a master of organic social media marketing, and I will help you launch your business for coaching. And of course, I said, yeah, please, let's do it. So he was my first client, and that was in 2020. And when I first started my business, my model was I'll help you write it, nonfiction memoir, I'll help you build your brand, market it, and then I'll help you submit queries to publishing companies. And I did that for 2.5 years. And then at that point, I was starting to notice, oh gosh, authors have no rights, really, in traditional publishing. Censorship is insane when it comes to things as simple as I want to use British English because I'm in Canada, but the publishing company says, no, we're going to use American English. So that happened twice to two authors. That was frustrating. And even censorship around bigger, darker things, traumatic things that certain writers were describing in their memoir, and the publishing company came back and said, you have to remove this whole vignette. We don't write about this kind of stuff. So that the censorship, the lack of rights, the lack of royalties, the lack of a partnership started to break my heart. And so I brought on it came over me, Meg, like an entrepreneur, I can solve this. I'm pretty sure I can solve this. I know what I don't know. So I brought on a team of 6 people beside me that had all the abilities a publishing company had. And then I was able to stay in my zone of genius, which is the marketing, the brand building, the actual writing of the book, the client care, getting them over their blocks spiritually and creatively. And we now, since 2023, my team offers everything that people need to write, market, sell, an Amazon bestseller on Audible, Kindle, and paperback.
I find it curious you mentioned that overly religious people have a block on writing a book because of the monetization being sinful. Yet the church is probably the most monetized institution that's ever existed. The two don't seem to marry up for me there. Why are religious people concerned about monetizing a book, it being a sin, when the church is so wealthy and makes so much money?
There are different church cultures for sure. The one I was raised in, and most importantly, the missionary grandparents of mine, their voice in my head and their limiting beliefs that became my limiting beliefs epigenetics, whatnot, was all based around poverty is Christian piety. And so, because I was in that place when I started my business and my coach was helping me get over those limiting beliefs, because that was who I was at my core, I was attracting people to talk to me about their books that was also their identity around money. Is that a valid answer? That there are different church cultures and
Yes, but I'd say even in different church cultures, the head of every church, there's always money goes up and follows up. So the church itself is still an extremely wealthy, money-making institution. The money goes somewhere.
yes.
If it's Catholic, it goes to the Vatican, but the money goes up somewhere, goes in. I mean, that's why Henry VIII in the UK created the offshoot from Catholic, because he wanted the money. He didn't want it going off to the Vatican, and he wanted to get divorced. So it's weird that. And I found this problem with religion over the years, that so many people who are religious on a ground level are very poor. And it's almost like, as you say, they're encouraged to be poor. They're encouraged to give their money to the church, and the church takes the money. The church makes the money. So the idea that people who are religious say, no, it's sinful to make money, so, well, that's what you're being told, but your whole religion is about giving money across to the church anyway. They're the ones making the money. It seems a little wrong to me that people who are following a religion are told to be poor or encouraged to be poor, yet they're giving everything they've got to religion. For example, I went to Thailand earlier this year, and in Thailand, they've got pretty much no money. They're paid peanuts. They can't afford to go on holiday anywhere because they can't leave the country. The economies around them are so much more wealthy than them. They can't go anywhere. Yet every time they go past a Buddhist temple, they're giving money. They're handing over what little they've got to... and these Buddhist temples are everywhere, every few hundred feet in Bangkok. They're all over the place, and they're just going in and they're handing over what little they've got. And it just seemed wrong to me that people who have so little are giving over everything, and it's all going somewhere. So... I'm not sure that made sense either, to be honest with you.
It did. Yes. Yes. I love this question. Yes. It makes so much sense. It reminds me of that time in church history in Europe where there was penance. Am I saying that right? You were
Penance,
asked
yeah.
to, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were to make sure your loved one has a cushy place to land on the other side. There was, so this reminds me, it reminds me of the question that I'm sitting in now, I don't have an answer to, which is that obviously, yeah, it is. I've already answered it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Is that a form of spiritual abuse, a misuse of spiritual authority, a little bit of brainwashing, shame, guilt involved that you, church member, instead of enjoying your materialistic pleasures, you need to be giving it to the church. Like there's this, I don't, just like we established about my upbringing and preaching from 13 to 30, being in ministry 13 to 32, that wasn't healthy. This obviously isn't healthy either. So, long answer long, to answer your question, why do religious people feel guilty about making money if they weren't raised by missionary grandparents like I was? And they don't have that backstory, why do they feel guilty? I'm being like an introvert right now. I'm thinking before I speak. It has to be, yes, brainwashing sounds so strong, but that's the only thing I could think of, which doesn't make any sense from the outside looking in. But when you're inside that church culture and group think, and there's verses being thrown at you from the Bible about I think it's Matthew. It's one of the Gospels. The man asked Jesus, how do I inherit the kingdom? And Jesus tells him, he was a very, very, very wealthy man. I might have already established that. And Jesus told him, sell everything you own. And so often that scripture, in my opinion, is wrongfully thrown about and wrongfully interpreted to mean for every single person that wealth is obviously evil, wealth is bad. When my experience of that scripture is that Jesus would have answered that question differently for each person. And I'll pause because I'm rambling at this point.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, there are parts of religion that get taken to basically say whatever it is you want to say. It's like statistics are the same. You can use statistics to say whatever you want. Whatever message you want to convey, you can use it to say that's what you want to say. It happens in
Yes.
politics. It's happening in politics right now in America. People are using certain things that the church will have said or the Bible will have said or that Psalms will have said to basically back up their own opinion. And then the other side will do the same thing because you can interpret it however way that you want. It just bothers me when people that clearly have so little are then giving it away for someone else. Eventually, somebody who's going to have quite a lot is telling them to do that. That's the bit that it doesn't sit comfortable with me. That's the thing.
I agree 100%. It doesn't sit comfortably with me either. Yes.
Do you hold any ill will towards what happened with your childhood with the church?
Oh, I think I did. I did. And I've moved through that. I've cleaned that energy up. I've healed that, and I've seen that. And part of that was my grandmother, who lovingly groomed me to be a pastor. And what I mean by that is I only felt love from her if I was a pastor. And she crossed over. She died. Went home. Whatever word we want to use. In 20. It's actually quite a funny story. Not how she died, but she.
Okay.
Yeah. She crossed over. Goodness gracious, October of 23, and that I had already been doing deep healing work to forgive and cleanse and get rid of all the energy from childhood that needed to be cleansed and forgiven. But when I can't make this up. Our last day together, I'm in Kansas now, which is north of Texas, and all my roots are in Texas. So, although I have to say, since you're in Europe, that I wonderfully spent. My early childhood was in Germany. My dad was in the army, and so from age 4 to age 10, I was in Germany and got to backpack Europe and all the wonderful things. But that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. So I went back to Texas, and my grandmother invited me to sing at her church. And I went back. I took my guitar and I sang, and my body had a trauma response. And I know that's a big buzzword right now, but it actually happened. I started shaking when I entered the sanctuary again. And I felt like that little girl, even though I was almost 40, I felt like that little girl who was performing and just hoping someone would love me. And I had to go. I found a food closet in the kitchen, a pantry. That's what that's called. I found a pantry. I sat down next to the jars of peanut butter, and I just cried for a second and released that sadness and loneliness of that little girl. And then went on stage, did my bit, and then my grandmother was parading me around afterwards, and she kept introducing, cannot make this up. This is better than anything any comedic writer could ever write. She kept introducing me as, this is my granddaughter who used to be a minister and almost did doctoral work. She'd never mentioned this amazing business that is much more successful than my ministry ever was. She never mentioned my 2 books, I've helped, I've helped 7, I just signed my 73rd one-on-one client in 5.5 years of business. That never came up. She kept introducing me person after person of, this is my granddaughter. She used to be a minister. She almost did doctoral work. And this anger, this rage bubbled up in my belly, fiery red fire in my belly. I could have punched through a door, and I'm not a strong person. And then there was communion, and she served me communion. And I had to take communion being pissed off at her. And when she dropped me off back at home, at my parents' house, I went in the guest bedroom and I laid on the bed and I cried. And it was this beautiful moment because never mind, that doesn't need to be said. I'll pause. But that was our last day together. That was our last day together, and I'm like, that is divine fuckery at its best. That was our last day together.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you had a complicated relationship then.
Yes. Yes. And it's been so healing since she's crossed over to connect with her through meditation, through dreams, through journaling, and healing our relationship and looking back over. I have stories. I will not share them now because we've been on for a while and I don't want to bore your listeners. Although they are not boring, they're insanely mystical experiences that are very healing. But I won't share them. But it's been neat to heal that relationship. And my third book is coming out this summer, and there is a character that is based on her. It's my first work of fiction, and she was the most fun case study and character to develop. She really was. And my goal in that book, and beta readers have told me that I succeeded. My goal is to position her as the antagonist at the start of the book, but by the end of the book, you've seen all of her own traumas and layers, and she's complex and her own backstory. And by the time the book ends, you realize she was never the antagonist. And so, but yeah, really, your question was, do I have any? 30 minutes later, your question was, what was your
I think
question?
it
Do I have
was,
any ill
yeah.
will? I don't know what it was, but I think I answered it.
I think it was, yeah. Do you harbour ill will towards the church for what happened? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. I mean, no, not now, not now.
Not
But I
now.
had
No,
to
you
do the
did.
healing
You
work.
did. You
Yes,
did.
yes.
Yeah.
I had to do the healing work to separate that my grandmother wasn't the church. That there is lots of good that does happen in churches, and like you pointed out, and like the show Righteous Gemstones about this mega church points out, there are also times in any religious community, or I would say any community, philanthropic community, it doesn't have to be religious, just any community where you get to trust yourself. And if you think, oh gosh, this feels kind of icky that you're asking this much tithes from poor people, like that doesn't feel, we get to trust ourselves and either leave the culture, leave that system, or be part of the change that happens in that culture, in that system. And that, I think that goes for any organization, not just religion, which can be really fucked up. Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to books. The slightly less contentious topic of books.
Yeah. Yes.
So there's a lot of people out there that think they've got a book in them and they
Yes.
don't really know where to start. I've co-written a book. I'll be honest right now, I wrote some of it. We had people within the office write other parts of it. So in terms of the percentage, I probably wrote about 15%, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less, because it was co-authored between a lot of different people.
Yes.
But for those people that think I've got a book, whether it's fiction or non-fiction or whether it's memoir, where's the best place for them to start?
Yes. The best place for them to start is a simple but hard step, and that is making a decision. And so speaking aloud, because if they're indecisive right now, that energy is not clean, obviously. That's going to be an energy suck in every part of their life. And so they need to make a decision. Whether that decision is 2026, the book is coming out, or I've checked in with myself. I'm not putting this off from a place of procrastination that's led by stress or trauma. I'm intentionally listening to this book, and it's telling me it wants to hibernate for 2 years. Just like my third book, it's taken me 3 years to write it. When I coach people through writing their books, we do it in 6 months or 12 months, and that's everything. Write, market, sell it, get it to bestseller. But my book idea, like it does for lots of people, it told me it wants to hibernate till summer 2026. So I listened. So they need to decide, am I procrastinating from stress or fear? Or is this an intentional timing that I'm making this decision to weigh at a conscious level, whether it's for my family's needs or the market's needs or where my business priorities, just make a decision. And then speak that decision out loud. I commit today that my book will be released in 2026. Or I commit today that by 2028, my book will be out. It'll be a bestseller on Amazon. It'll be a lead magnet for my business. By doing that, we all know the neuroscientific research that points to the power of how we talk to ourselves and how that rewires us. So there's that going on. But I also have the belief that the book idea inside of you is different than you, and it needs to hear you say, "I see you, I believe you, I love you. I want I want to help other people with you." Book. It's going to happen 2026 or by 2028. So just that first step, it seems simple, but it's really hard because it feels more real to make a decision, but that is the first step.
So it's basically setting yourself a deadline and set yourself a goal, a deadline, how to get there, and it's going to be more realistic.
Yes.
Would you suggest, because a lot of people say when they talk about goals that if you tell other people that, it makes it
Ooh,
more real.
this is a tricky one. There's different opinions about this because I don't care about their opinions, though. I'll say my opinion. I think you should be picky with who you tell your creative ideas to, because you want to protect that creative juju, if I could use that word. I probably can't use that word anymore, but you want to protect yourself and the creative idea. So only telling people that are, I think on one of your episodes, you talked about people being at a pub and talking about your business ideas and people who aren't business owners telling you it's
Yeah.
going to fail.
Yeah.
So same thing applies here. Be picky with who you tell it to. Make sure they're going to be people that support you and cheer you on. That does, and all the studies about speaking things into being, yes. But no, yeah, just be picky with who you tell it to make it more real. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of your clients who you help, what sort of businesses do you help? Or is there a particular kind of business you really like to work with on a
Ooh,
book that you've not yet?
that I've not yet. I usually help coaches and business owners who want their book to establish them as an authority on their subject matter. They want to take the book with them to retreats and conferences and sell it. They want it to be a lead magnet that passively builds their email list, all the things that books do. They want that. And some of the clients I serve are, I would say the majority are like me, in that writing is like cake to them. They feel pleasure when they write. And so it's for that reason they're not hiring a ghostwriter. They're coming to me to help pull the book out of them and their unique style. However, there are a few percentage that are not writers, but they do want to they do feel the need that their business, it would serve their business to have a book. And so I get to help them figure out their writing routine if they don't enjoy writing. And so what that usually turns out being is more dictating the book, and then I'm dancing with it and fine tuning it for them. Okay, a business I haven't worked with that I would like to work with. Yes, 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 yes. There, there's lots of research happening right now about nutritional science with how women's. This is going to sound very, very simple, but it's mind blowing to me. A company that comes to mind, and she already has books, so she doesn't need me, but I'm a huge fan. But companies like Elisa Vitti, who does the flow living work, and what that basically is, what she's arguing against in her books is that all of our nutritional science stats, like we should wake up. I think you might have heard the life hack. We need to wake up at the same time every day. And so little life hacks like that are based on tons of nutritional scientific research that was done on male soldiers during the Second World War. So what Elisa Vitti is now doing, and other women like her, they're coming forward and they're offering tons of evidence to support that women's bodies have different needs than men's bodies, and freeing women up to live differently than men and think differently, because every week, as if you have ovaries in your body, every week your brain has different superpowers basically. And I've been a fan of hers, receiving her lessons since 2019, so 6 years. So I would love to, a company I'd love to work with is I haven't worked with any yet, but it'd be fun to work with a company that is all about, building up women to lead and live differently than men. And that in no way makes us any less than men, just owning our biological anatomical differences. Yeah. So that's really interesting to me right now. And that's it woven into my third book a bit too.
So if there's anybody out there in that sort of field listening to this right now, you want to speak to them.
Yes. Yes. 100%. 100%.
Which brings me on to a question I ask everybody at the end of every podcast, and that's what's the best way to get in touch with you if they would like to work with you on this?
Yes. Yes. So I would love to give your listeners a gift.
Oh.
I know. It's exciting. So exciting.
It is very exciting.
So I have these 5 questions that if you ask yourself these 5 questions, you will know exactly your book topic. Because so many entrepreneurs, as we know, we have more thoughts a day than people that are not wired to be entrepreneurs. So what that usually, again, not pretentious, it doesn't make us better, we're just different. What that means is sometimes we have too many ideas. And we're like, I do feel called to write a book for my business, but I have this idea, and I'm an expert in this and this and this. So these 5 questions, every time someone asks themselves these questions, they have crystal clarity on the book idea and the topic. So I'd love to give that to your listeners, and I'll give you the link for that. It's at my website, megcalvin.com. And then I'm also where I found you. I'm on Instagram. Hey, Meg Calvin. I'm on TikTok, Meg Calvin, Facebook, Meg Calvin. So yeah, find me on there.
So there's a specific link we'll pop below the description for this podcast to go through to ask yourself those 5 questions, and that will lead you to absolute clarity on what your book should be about.
100%. Yep. Always.
That sounds like a cracking deal to me. Meg, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you, Darren. It was so great to be with you today.